As we get closer and closer to the November election, I've been talking about how much of Donald Trump's behavior over the next 3 months is going to be coming of a place of desperation, from a place of desperation, out of a sense of desperation. And David Shipler wrote a really interesting article yesterday in Washington Monthly called Beware of a Cornered Trump, which really builds on this idea that you and I have been talking about for a while, that if Donald Trump's polling continues to be bad, and remember, he's pretending like he doesn't believe the polling, but his actions speak otherwise, replacing his campaign manager, and all of the, restarting coronavirus briefings, all wearing a mask, all the things that he's doing. If his polling doesn't improve, it doesn't have to necessarily get worse, but just if it doesn't improve, we would expect, based on everything we know about Donald Trump, that he would go even more in the directions that we have seen him tend to, directions of corruption and depravity and authoritarian tendencies, which will likely become even more severe. And case in point, we're really already seeing that. Over the last couple of weeks, the deployment of camouflage troops with no badges to Portland, Oregon, where they are throwing people into unmarked vans and claiming that they're going to expand to more cities, even as soon as this week, and we'll see if that happens. We're seeing the authoritarianism and really the desperation and the disregard for human life manifest in the demand from Trump that schools just open in the fall. Health considerations be damned, just get open. We are seeing Donald Trump's desperation to prevent people from voting against him manifest in his unhinged opposition to vote by mail, which in practice this year just means expand absentee ballots through the process we already have to whoever wants it. Just virulent opposition to that on completely false and bogus grounds. And as David Shipler says in this article, which we're going to link to and I encourage you to read, and I like this term, Trump has no moral brakes. There's nothing there where morality would pump the brakes for him. David Shipler goes on to say his values are those of a mafia boss who rewards and punishes those who protect or oppose him, who protect for opposing him, punishes those who protect or oppose him. Now, to be thorough, David Shipler also mentions our fear could be wrong. Maybe Trump won't go completely off the rails. For example, maybe Trump won't send these armed paramilitaries that are now being floated in places like Portland. Maybe Trump won't send them to monitor polling places to intimidate voters in November. We're worried that he's going to do that, but maybe he won't do it. Maybe our fear is overblown, and we hope that it's overblown in the sense that Trump could be too incompetent or unable to think far enough ahead to actually do the horrible things that he would have no moral problem doing. If Trump stops short of what we fear he would do, it would be not because of a moral awakening, but because he forgets or is incompetent or is unable to get something done. But there is this constant feedback loop or vicious cycle. Trump's ignorance and delusions of grandeur and narcissism reinforce his most dangerous impulses, which, when he does and sees that he gets a reaction, reinforces his narcissism and delusions of grandeur and victimhood mentality that no one's been treated as poorly as him. You combine this with this silver spoon upbringing and what appears to be probably some personality disorders based on the mental health professionals we've spoken to. There is no check on Trump's behavior anywhere. And in fact, when we hear that Trump had an idea and didn't carry it out, it typically is because either A, he gets distracted by something else, or B, a group of people in his administration are able to talk him out of it or prevent him from doing it, and then he moves on to something else. It comes down to what can he get away with? What can the people around him stop him from doing? And it also shouldn't be ignored that the administration is in itself a threat by virtue of its mere existence. This is an administration that has been a threat to the economy. It's been a threat to international relations and our alliances with other countries. The administration, obviously, in what we're seeing with coronavirus, has been an existential threat to public health. There continues to be a shockingly large percentage of Americans, though, that still support the president and still support this administration, despite everything that's going on right now. And that is sort of part two of how a desperate Trump becomes a dangerous Trump. Some portion of Trump supporters, and I don't know what the number is, but I fear that it's a larger percentage than we want to admit. Some portion of Trump supporters are willing to do violence, like real world violence, if that's what Donald Trump suggests or implies or in any way signals may be appropriate. And so when Donald Trump said to Chris Wallace on Sunday, when asked, can you just say you'll accept the election results? Trump didn't do it. He said, I have to see the election results before I can tell you whether I would accept them. When you start to hear about the paramilitaries showing up in Portland, we have to remember that a portion of this man's followers are more than willing, some are eager to get out there and commit physical violence on the streets in the name of Donald Trump. Trump has shown us that if we try to predict how far he will go, we're always wrong. He's always willing to go further than whatever our predictions are at any point in time. And the more cornered he gets, and that's what I believe he increasingly is right now, the more outrageous and belligerent his behavior is going to get. I wonder what stories there are to be told, which maybe we will hear someday, about the things Trump almost did during this administration, and someone was just barely able to, but was able to stop him from doing it. You know, the stories about the things he did are bad enough. There must be just a treasure trove of nightmares about the things he almost did that someone stopped him from doing. And the next 3+ months, three months and a few weeks up until the election, are likely to be the most dangerous Trump because of the desperation and the feeling cornered. And the cognitive stuff is increasingly taking center stage. And I want to talk about that a little bit next. Let me tell you real quick about one of our sponsors, Cuts Clothing. They offer super quality men's t-shirts, and they're giving you 15% off when you go to davidpakman.com/cuts. That's CUTS. Because solid color t-shirts are a really important staple in pretty much every guy's wardrobe. I think it's really important not to overlook the value of having t-shirts you love wearing. T-shirts from Cuts Clothing have been a game changer for me. And as a company, all they deal with are men's solid color t-shirts. So they actually put a ton of thought into the comfort, the style, the durability of the t-shirts they make. They fit perfectly. They're not scratchy. They don't shrink. They don't fade. They don't stretch out over time like so many other t-shirts. They're really the most comfortable t-shirts I've owned, and they look great. This right here that I'm wearing on YouTube is the split hem crew neck t-shirt. Very soft, fits me perfectly. It's the ideal length. Go take a look at what they offer, and once you have it, you are really going to see and feel the difference. Their slogan is, it's the only shirt worth wearing. You will see why, and you'll get 15% off when you do it by going to davidpakman.com/cuts. That's davidpakman.com/CUTS.